Hi everybody. I got sidetracked again because out of that bag of clothes I got at that thrift store for $1, I had a couple sweaters. So what I did with the sweaters is I stuck them in the wash machine under a gentle cycle, and then I dried them under low heat. Since these sweaters were part of that $1 bag, they probably cost me anywhere between 5 and 10 cents a piece. So if they didn't come out good in the wash, it wouldn't have been a tragedy. But anyway, there were two different sweaters that I got. One was this soft white. It's got gold flecks in it. It's very soft, but it's just your basic plain old white sweater. It had a little bit of a turtleneck on it. The other sweater I got was just a plain red, also with the gold flecks, because I thought I'd be making some Christmas sweaters with this. So I washed them and they came out okay, so I cut them all up. I made 2 sweaters so far. Well, I've made 1.5. I made this white one. This one is out of that soft white knit. This is a nice sweater for the Our Generation dolls, because the Our Generation dolls have big necks, so putting that little turtleneck really looks nice on the Our Generation. This one, I'm not going to put Velcro in the back, and the reason why is because if I have Velcro on the back of this, it is just going to just catch. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. It's going to catch on the soft knit of the sweater, and it won't be good on this doll, or any doll for that matter. So let me tell you what pattern I used for this. I used the same pattern I did with the little red tank top, M4896 McCall's. This time I added in I used the same t-shirt pattern, but I took a copy of the sleeve from this jacket and used it for the sleeves on the doll here. The nice thing about this white fabric, it didn't fray hardly any at all like a regular knit would fray. I don't know, I cut the tag off, so I really don't know what the content is. But when you look at the edging of it, it doesn't fray much, so I didn't really have to worry about finishing off the edges too much on these, because it was okay. So I did everything the way I did the tank top, only this time I used the sleeve pattern. So how I adjusted the sleeve, I was able to cut off on the bottom of the sleeve. I cut off 1/4 of an inch. If I was going to make one for Our Generation, I'd probably cut off more than that. Maybe I'd go about 1/2 of an inch if I was going to make this specifically for the Our Generation doll. But this is the sleeve. Even though it's not exactly right, it's pretty close, so I used the same sleeve for the front and the back. It's not too far off, so I didn't think it would matter, and it didn't. Okay, so one thing about the sleeves on this white one, I used the sleeve out of the ribbed bottom. So here is the front of the sweater, and what I did was I took my sleeve pattern and I made the bottom of the ribbing the bottom of my sleeve. So when I cut out my sleeve pattern, I laid it on just like that and cut it out, and that's how I was able to get a finished edge on the bottom of these sleeves without having to finish them off at all. I did the same thing on this red one. I used the ribbing on the bottom of the sleeves. I cut these out of both of the sleeves, and I got the ribbing on the red for the red sweater. As far as finishing it off, I didn't even bother doing an overlock on the white one, because I just didn't think it needed it. But one thing when you're doing these kind of for the collar, what I did was I just cut it like a 2-inch strip of the ribbing that had the finished edge on one edge, on one end. So I would use the bottom of either one of the sleeves or the bottom of the ribbing on the bottom of the sweater, so it was a finished edge. The top I didn't worry too much about. Because I wanted this to come up and over, I took my wrong sides of my sweater and I sewed the right sides to the wrong side. See how I've got the seam in the front? And by sewing it this way, when this comes over, it makes that stand up and over like you do on a regular sweater. So I sewed that as close as I could to the edge, and then I overlocked it, and that's how I got such a small seam in here. So try to sew them as close as you can, and then overlock, and you'll have a nice fold over on the sweater. So let me put this back on her, and I'll show you what I mean. If I was going to do that, you would see that seam, but I haven't put any snaps on this yet, so I'm just going to pin it closed for now. Put it here too. Okay, and that is how you're going to get that to just lay perfectly on the neckline of the doll. If you look in the back, I'm going to have a snap at the top, and that will be how it will be in the back. Okay, so just by doing that, you can even make this wider if you want, or bigger. You can, if you sew it the other way and you look down, you're going to see the stitching. You can do it that way, but it does work better when you do it this way. You get that nice cover up. I could even have gone thicker. I could have gone wider. I could go maybe 3 inches and get a real wide neckline if I wanted to do that. But right now that's the first one I made on that, so that was it. Okay, so then once I got that done, I made this one in the red. So far, this is the Madame Alexander doll, and they're so flat-chested that I put a bra on her so she got more of a shape on this sweater. Now this knit is more frayable, because when you look at it, you can see that it's going to actually come loose and make runs in it. So you're going to have to do an overlock or a zigzag or something along the edging so that it'll keep the this type of knit from fraying. So in this one, I'm working on a different neckline. Let me take this off to show you what I did for I did my regular 1/4 inch seams on everything, but I also took my overlock stitch and I overlocked it. So if it does tend to fray, I've got the overlock holding the seams together and my regular knit stitch on top of that, which will help keep it in one piece, so it'll last a lot longer. Because once you work with this type of knit, this is the type of knit that will actually give you runs. Okay, so I haven't got a neckline on this yet, so let me put this back on. I'm going to show you what I've been kicking around as far as necklines on these sweaters. But try and find if you've never done one of these, cut up a sweater to use for a doll sweater, try and find a cheap one. So if you do, find a cheap one at the thrift store. So if you do make mistakes and it doesn't work out for you, you don't spend a lot of money on it. Okay, so here's my neckline on the Madame Alexander. One of my options I thought was I could take a neckline and make it so it comes around like one of those regular, I don't know if you know what this type of neckline where it comes around and hangs down. I thought that would be a cute neckline on that, so I was going to try and do that on this one. Another option is this is what, about 6 inches of part of that sweater, and I'm thinking that I can make a cowl neck, a real thick cowl neck, and because the dolls are such that they can't stand up on their own, you really have to help them. So what I was thinking, that I could double up this fabric, this knit fabric, bring it around and give her a really thick cowl neck. So once I get that all sewed on, then it'll be able to hang down like a regular cowl neck would hang down. Do you see what I'm thinking about right there for this one? I mean, there's just so many different necklines, so just, like I said, find a sweater that you're not going to wear anymore and practice on it and practice with different necklines. And I think that you'll be able to come up with some really cute designs.